Female voice, male voice, lolly voice, monster voice.
Okay, time check natin. Dahan-dahan tayo, hindi pa rin na 100% makarecover tayo. Anong sinisilip natin, no? Okay, ano na po ang oras natin, no? Okay, 8 minutos. Pasado po alas 8. Okay, ang time natin mga kababayan, no? Time check natin. Okay, 16 po ng 16 po ng Mayo 2024. Okay, gabi po ng Miyerkules mga suki ang programa natin. Prime time news natin mga suki, no? Okay, huwag na tayo paligoy-ligoy. Pupunta tayo sa greeting natin, intro natin dito sa programa Serbisyo Publiko Tinig ng Mamamayan. Okay, sa platform ng ADLSN TV News Online Corporation. Okay, sa programa Halo-Halo Special, Opinion, Balita at iba pa. Kasama po Serbisyo Publiko Tinig ng Mamamayan. At saka ugnayan sa mamamayan, no? Okay, batiin po noon natin ang bisita natin sa Basilan bukas. Akin siya pala ngayon, no? Sorry mga suki. Akin siya ngayon. Bukas pala ang programa sa Basilan ay itong pagbisita po ng mga leader natin sa galing po sa Bangsamoro Autonomous Region Muslim Mindanao Government. Itong BTAY, okay, Bangsamoro Transition Authority Government, no? Okay, bukas dyan sila sa Lamitan. Sabi ng feedback sa akin galing sa Cotabato, mga 3 araw sila dyan, no? Magsimula bukas. Kanina dito sila sa Zamboanga, Palacio del Sur. Okay, meron mga pinilmahan po ng mga MOU, Memorandum of Understanding mga suki, no? Ang pamalan po ng Basilan, pati Sangga-Sanggata, no? Tawi-Tawi Region. Okay, local government ng Basilan, pinamunuan po ni Governor Jim Hataman Saliman, no? Siya ang host kung sa Lamitan. Sila ni Mayor Urik Porigay, no? Ayan, so i-welcome natin mga leader natin. Nakita ko sa picture. Okay, yung 3 grant leader pa rin ng Bangsamoro government, no? Pinangunahan ni Chief Minister Ahud Balawag Ibrahim, and then itong si Minister Mahagar Ikbar, at saka itong si Governor ng Maguindanao del Norte, Abdurraub Makakuha, no? So bilang taga-Basilan tayo, i-welcome natin sila mga suki, mga kababayan, no? Napakasama mo naman kung hindi ka mag-welcome sa mga bisita mo, mga suki, no? So binabati natin, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi ta'ala wabarakatuh, no? O kinokontak ko si Engineer Muhajirin Ali, kuha sana ko ng update interview, pero close po ang CP niya, mga suki, mga kababayan, no? So ganun na lang, i-welcome natin kung anong mga activities nila. Okay, sa Lamitan ay sana ayos na ayos po ang mga activity bukas mag-success. Assembly rin natin itong mga suki, mga kababayan, no? Parang ay ginagawa nila rin sa Ponabayabaw, Lanao del Sur, ang mga activity niyan, no? Ayan. So, basahin po natin kung anong balita po kanina. Okay? Sa MOU ng Local Government Unit ng Basilan at saka itong parang tawi-tawi mga suki, mga kababayan, no? Okay, sandali lang. Okay. Okay, no, anong unang balita natin mga suki, mga
It's
kababayan?
2013.
Okay. Meron ba ito mensahe sa akin pag magprograma ko, no? Ito na. Provincial, naku, nawala mga kababayan. Okay, no? Okay, layo na, no? Okay,
How does an airplane?
Okay. Saan na yun? Okay, nawala. Ito. Saan na ba yun? Okay, mga suki, mga kababayan.
Kini nga nakita.
Bigla
Kita na karon ni siyempre nakabak.
bigla nawala mga suki, mga kababayan, no? Okay, so hanapin natin yun. Hindi pwede po hindi mahanap. Ayan. Grabe, no? Grabe ang provincial government ng Basilan, mga suki, no? Okay. Ito na po mga suki, provincial government ng Basilan. Okay. Ito rin, ayan na. Okay, muntik tayo ng pahiya. Okay, the provincial government of Basilan, okay, led by Governor Jim Soliman, has collaborated with the Bangsamoro Planning and Development Authority, BPDA, and the Ministry of Transportation Communication, MOTC, in a memorandum of understanding signing today, May 15, 2024. This agreement pertains to conducting a feasibility study for the proposed Basilan Airport Development Project. The signing ceremony took place at Martian Hotel Palacio del Sur, Zamboanga City, no? Attorney Pai Salintago, representing the Ministry of Transportation and Communication BARM, was represented by Miss Kaisilin Paraiso. Magandang pangalan, no? Paraiso. Kaisilin Paraiso. Heaven. Also present were the airport manager of Sangga Engineer, okay, Mohajirin Ali from BPDA, Vice Governor Yusuf Alano, Lamitan Mayor Urik Porigay, Akbar Mayor Ali Sali, Board Member Nas Salain, Board Member J. Hataman Saliman, Engineer Nerson Akmadul, the head of a PPDO, and Engineer Arnold Yap, the CPDO of Lamitan. This MOU signing marked a significant step forward in elevating the feasibility study, feasibility of the proposal for development project through collaboration and pooling of expertise. All parties involved are dedicated to conducting a comprehensive assessment that will serve as a foundation for informed decision-making and a foster sustainable development within the province, no? So, yan po mga maasahan po natin, okay, kung matuloy ang project ito, no? Okay, sa loob ng isang taon, 2025, mahigit na lang isang taon. Okay, tingnan natin po kabilis nila magawa ng proposal, yan mga suki, feasibility studies. Ayan po mga suki, no? Okay. So, sige. Ayan po mga suki, mga kababayan, no? Ayan. So, sige lang mga suki. Okay, sandali lang. Baburikan natin po ibang balita, no? Ayan. Okay, team ng Bangsamoro Government, we welcome natin po sa Basilan bukas mga suki, mga kababayan, no? Ayan. Pakinggan muna natin ang palabas ng Basilan, no? Okay. Napakita po nila yung mga ambulansya nakuha nila pa sa probinsya ng Basilan. Okay, yan po mga suki, mga kababayan, yung palabas nila. Sino kayo mga MP magtakbo po sa Basilan, no? Okay. Kung sino-sino kaya nakalinya sa United Bangsamoro Justice Party? Yung mga MP, okay, magtakbo sa Basilan, no? Tingnan nga natin yan. Ayan. So, kailangan preparado, no? Okay, yung mga MP magtakbo sa Basilan, siyempre mga meron incumbent, no? Okay, mga incumbent. Okay, pero may kalaban yan, may opposition, sigurado yan. Okay. Talagang may tatakbo yan. Okay. So, paramihan kasi mag-election, paramihan po ng MPs. Okay, para makontrol po ang parliament ang BARM, no? Kasi kailangan majority. Kung gusto mo ay maging pinuno po ng Chief Minister ng BARM, no? Ayan. So, paramihan ng MPs. Ayan. Paramihan ng District Representatives. Ayan po mga suki, mga kababayan. Sandali lang, hanap tayo ng karugtog ng balita, no? Okay, hindi cannot be reached, no? So, wala tayo. Okay, hindi ma-reach talaga. Sige. Huwag natin pilitin. Okay, mga suki, mga kababayan, ano ang susunod na balita natin, mga suki, no? Okay. Sige.
Female voice, male voice, lolly voice, monster voice.
Okay, ang susunod na parinig natin, Palestine become a full UN members, no? Oo nga. Palestine become full members of UN, but the problem, there is no citizen inside Palestine. Okay, UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres, no? There is no citizen inside Gaza Strip, no? So, who will to manage? Who will to govern? Okay, Secretary General. Pakinggan natin kahit hindi buo. Okay lang, minuto ba ito? Maikli lang, no? Okay, maikli lang. Maikli, pakinggan natin ito, no?
In this state, we fully support Palestinians' right to self-determination. Every child, every family deserves to live in peace and prosperity and in dignity, and we want the Palestinian people to have their own state. Germany has worked towards that for years, and we will relentlessly continue to do so. Today, immediate action is required, supported by collective international efforts to stop the fighting, to release the hostages, to ensure and guarantee security for Israelis and Palestinians alike, to provide humanitarian assistance, and to end the suffering and the destruction. Without such immediate steps, a Palestinian state will not become a reality. but we want the Palestinian state to exist in reality. Unfortunately, today's vote in the General Assembly will not be able to create a viable Palestinian state, nor will it make peace. If immediate full membership ended all the suffering we are witnessing, we would have today wholeheartedly voted yes. Only direct negotiations between Israelis and Palestinians will lead to sustainable peace in the Middle East and to a two-state reality. And this is why we have abstained today. At this moment of time, let us focus on what is necessary to open an effective road to peace and security for the region, for Israelis and Palestinians alike. Germany is working relentlessly towards this goal. In close coordination with our partners in the region, we are focusing on creating the conditions necessary for a two-state solution. To be very clear, and on this many in this room seem to agree, full UN membership of a Palestinian state is not the beginning nor the end of a political process towards a two-state solution, but it is an integral part of such a political process. Israelis and Palestinians must start agreeing on tangible steps that allow both peoples to live in dignity and security side by side, steps to end the occupation and to prevent violence and incitement. Today we stand against unilateral measures undermining the prospect for a two-state solution, namely illegal settlement activities in the occupied territories and unprecedented levels of settler violence. We call upon the government of Israel to do its part to keep the two-state solution viable. At the same time, Palestinians need to lay the ground for a viable and legitimate state structure. What is needed is an effective, unified Palestinian authority determined to live in peace and security with Israel as good neighbors. This will require continued substantial efforts from all stakeholders. The international community stands ready to take responsibility to ensure that the Palestinian Authority can effectively fulfill this task and guarantee security for Israelis and Palestinians alike. What happened on the 7th of October 2023 must never happen again. Israel's legitimate security concerns must be met, and the Palestinians be able to live in peace and security. Germany stands ready to support it. Mr. President, in today's important vote, delegations have taken different decisions. None of us is taking this lightly. We all seek to contribute to the same objective: peace and security for every child in Palestine, peace and security for every child in Israel, peace and security for the whole region, and especially a viable two-state solution. Let us therefore join forces to work towards peace. The horrible war in Gaza is a stark reminder that this is the only way forward. Israel must finally allow for humanitarian assistance to reach all innocent men, women, and children in Gaza now. We also call upon Israel to refrain from further escalation in Rafah and to do everything in its power to protect the lives of civilians in Gaza. As every country has the right to self-defense, every country also has the obligation to protect civilians. We cannot wait for the day when the Palestinian people finally have their own state, not just a seat behind a name plate at the UN. This is what we are working for, and we believe we can only do this together. I thank you.
I thank the distinguished representative of Germany for his statement, and I now invite the distinguished representative of Italy to take the floor.
Mr. President, Italy is a firm supporter of the principle two people, two states, and shares the goal of a comprehensive and lasting peace that could only, and I stress only, be achieved on the basis of a two-state solution with Israel and Palestine living side by side in peace and security within agreed, recognized borders. We believe such a goal must be achieved through direct negotiations between the parties. we have doubts that today's approval of the resolution will contribute to the objective of reaching a lasting solution to the conflict. That is why we decided to abstain. With the brutal attacks perpetrated by Hamas on October 7th and the ensuing conflict in the Gaza Strip, reaching the objective of the two-state solution has become more urgent than ever. That is the only way to avoid the eternal cycles of action and reaction that have poisoned generations of Israeli and Palestinians' life. There will be no security for Israel without the existence of a sovereign, viable Palestinian state. A Palestinian state whose territory should cover both the West Bank and Gaza, and that should be effectively governed by a revamped Palestinian Authority. The importance of restoring a political horizon in order to respond to the legitimate aspirations of the Palestinian people should guide our action in the medium term. In the short term, priority should be given to resolve the catastrophic, tragic humanitarian crisis in the Gaza Strip. Within this context, we urge Israel to halt its plans already underway to start a ground operation in Rafah. As also mentioned by the President of the Italian Republic in front of this very assembly 3 days ago, Italy supports the Secretary General's call for military operations at Rafah to be avoided, given the painfully tragic consequences that they would further have on Palestinian civilians. At the same time, we also urge Hamas to release all the hostages unconditionally. Italy is doing its part to alleviate the immense suffering of the Palestinian population on the brink of a famine. Recently, our Foreign Minister launched the initiative Food for Gaza in collaboration with FAO, WFP and IFRC, aimed at better meeting the urgent demand for food security and primary health of the civilian population. We are also ready to resume our funding to UNRWA, earmarked to specific projects. We believe that the agency continues to play a pivotal role in the delivery of humanitarian assistance, playing a stabilizing role in the wider region. Once the emergency phase is over, Italy stands ready to do its part, together with all its partners, to contribute to relaunch a political horizon. I thank you.
I should like to thank the distinguished representative of Germany, and I now invite the distinguished representative of Austria to take the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. Austria abstained on draft resolution L30 Rev 1 entitled Admission of New Members to the United Nations. Here's why. The admission of new members to the UN is a political and also a legal step. In general, it is one that we encourage deeply. For Austria, the United Nations is the paramount global organization where all states of the world seek solutions together to common challenges. Regarding the Middle East peace process, Austria therefore fully supports the vision set out in this resolution for two states, Israel and Palestine, living side by side in peace and security within recognized borders based on the pre-1967 borders. Austrian political leaders have consistently called for that. In January, Foreign Minister Schallenberg at the UN Security Council called on the international community to do more to achieve this aim by laying the foundations for a life in peace and dignity for Israelis and Palestinians alike. Austria remains committed to this goal, but we believe that genuine peace and security for Israelis and Palestinians alike can only be achieved through a political process. A mere symbolic recognition of Palestine will not bring about the changes that Palestinians aspire to and that they deserve. For this reason, Austria abstained on the draft resolution today and calls instead on both sides to return to the negotiation table. Austria stands ready to support efforts that can rebuild hope for peace and categorically rejects any unilateral attempts from any side to undermine the prospects for a two-state solution. Thank you.
I should like to thank the distinguished representative of Austria, and I now invite the distinguished representative of the United Kingdom to take the floor.
Thank you, President. The United Kingdom remains firmly committed to a two-state solution that guarantees security and stability for both the Israeli and the Palestinian people. As we said in the Security Council last month, we're abstaining on this resolution because we believe that the first step towards achieving this goal is resolving the immediate crisis in Gaza. The fastest way to end the conflict is to secure a deal which gets the hostages out and allows for a pause in the fighting in Gaza. We must then work together to turn that pause into a sustainable, permanent ceasefire. Setting out a horizon for a Palestinian state should be one of the vital conditions for moving from a pause in fighting to a sustainable ceasefire. Recognizing a Palestinian state, including at the UN, should be part of that process. As my Foreign Secretary has said, while this shouldn't be at the start of a new process, it doesn't have to be at the very end of the process. President, we remain deeply concerned about the prospect of a major operation in Rafah. We are clear that we would not support this unless there is a very clear plan for how to protect civilians who must be safe and able to access food, water and medical care. We have not seen that plan, so in these circumstances we would not support a major operation in Rafah. The UK is doing all it can to reach a long-term solution to this crisis. In addition to our support for a deal which would secure a pause in the fighting and the immediate release of all hostages, we are pushing as hard as we can to get aid to Palestinian civilians, working with partners to de-escalate the situation in the region and build a momentum towards a lasting peace. The UK has offered the Palestinian Authority our support as the new Palestinian government implements much-needed reforms. An effective Palestinian Authority is vital for lasting peace and progress towards a two-state solution. And just as the PA must act, so too must Israel. This means releasing frozen funds, halting settlement expansion, and holding to account those responsible for extremist settler violence. Last week, the UK announced a second package of sanctions targeting individuals and groups directly responsible for egregious violence against Palestinian civilians. The Israeli authorities must put a stop to this. President, in conclusion, we will continue to work urgently to bring the Gaza conflict to a sustainable end as quickly as possible, and to build a credible and irreversible pathway towards a two-state solution and lasting peace. I thank you.
I should like to thank the distinguished representative of the United Kingdom for the statement, and I now give to the floor the distinguished representative of Iceland.
Mr. President, in 2011, Iceland and Palestine established full diplomatic relations after the Icelandic Parliament passed a resolution in support of recognizing the state of Palestine as a sovereign state. Since then, Iceland's position on Palestinian statehood has been clear. Iceland has consistently called for a two-state solution where both Israel and Palestine live side by side in peace and security and mutual recognition. Therefore, we support Palestine's full membership of the United Nations and the call for the Security Council to reconsider the matter favorably. We also call on the Council to do more to live up to its mandate and address the Middle East peace process. This is why we voted in favor of today's resolution. Mr. President, just as Iceland has consistently condemned Hamas's past indiscriminate terrorist attacks, we condemned in the strongest terms the horrific attack on Israel on October the 7th. We continue to call for the immediate and unconditional release of all hostages taken in this most fatal attack on Jews since the Holocaust. In 1947, Iceland's first permanent representative to the United Nations was instrumental in passing Resolution 181, envisioning the formation of independent Arab and Jewish states. Subsequently, Iceland supported Israel's admission to the UN in 1949. Ever since, Iceland has reiterated Israel's clear right to defend itself in line with the UN Charter and international law, including international humanitarian law. We also recognize the legitimate security concerns of Israel. Israel's right to exist is beyond debate. We can never forget the horrors of the Holocaust, which led to the creation of the State of Israel, especially now as we face extreme increase in anti-Semitism. At the same time, we recognize the injustice of Israel's illegal settlements in the West Bank and East Jerusalem and the blockade of Gaza, and once again call on Israel to put an end to this and take action to stop settler violence. Freedom of media also needs to be respected. Mr. President, ultimately international law provides states with rights and obligations. Both are sacred. Iceland expects these two states, Israel and Palestine, to enjoy and respect both. In the past month, the world has witnessed hindered access for humanitarian aid, water and power to Gaza. There have been reports of civilian infrastructure and hospitals being used for purposes that can deprive them of the protection under international humanitarian law. And we have witnessed totally unacceptable losses of the lives of civilians, children, aid and health workers, journalists and UNRWA staff. All of these constitute serious violations of international humanitarian law. The figures are shocking. After 6 months of war, over 35,000 people have died in Gaza. More than 2 million civilians are desperately in need of life-saving aid. Civilian infrastructure is in ruins. And if Israel's large-scale military campaign in Rafah materializes, the situation is bound to get even worse. We therefore urge Israel to hold its operations in Rafah. Iceland condemns all violations of international law, including international humanitarian law. And again, international law provides states with rights and obligations. Both are sacred. We must restore respect for international law, including humanitarian law, which binds all parties to armed conflicts and cannot be derogated from. The civilians in Gaza must be protected in accordance with the legally binding orders issued by the International Court of Justice in The Hague. Security Council resolutions 2712, 2720 and 2748 must be implemented. Mr. President, mindful of how seemingly insurmountable grievances have been overcome during our lifetimes, there is hope for the two states to live side by side in peace. The people of Palestine and Israel deserve to live in peace and security in prosperous and democratic societies. They deserve to live without fear of aggression or terrorist attacks. We therefore call on Israel and Hamas to urgently agree to and implement a sustained ceasefire and commend all efforts to try to bring an agreement to fruition. Today's resolution will not immediately change the situation on the ground, but it recognizes that peace will not be achieved through unilateral means. It calls for more to be done and determines that there is no better path towards peace than the two-state solution. In this context, Mr. President, Palestine should qualify and be welcomed as the 194th UN member state. And I thank you.
I should like to thank the distinguished delegate of Iceland for his statement, and I now invite the distinguished delegate of Romania to take the floor.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Mr. President, Romania abstained on the resolution on the admission of new members to the United Nations. Romania has recognized Palestine in 1988, and we remain supportive of the two-state solution as the only option for a just and lasting resolution of the Palestinian-Israeli conflict. In the 36 years since recognizing Palestine, we have been standing by the Palestinian people and providing support throughout the time to the civilians, including during the ongoing crisis. And we will continue to support the Palestinians in line with international law, international humanitarian law. As a long-standing supporter of the Charter, Romania wishes to highlight that admission of a state to UN membership will be effected by a decision of the General Assembly upon the recommendation of the Security Council on code. We are hence of the view that the Security Council needs to consider the matter first and reach a positive recommendation before the General Assembly can decide. We need to preserve the complementarity and sequencing of action between the General Assembly and Security Council in line with the UN Charter. In our view, the two-state solution remains the only way for bringing just and lasting peace in the Middle East based on international law, relevant UN Security Council resolutions, the Madrid principles including Land for Peace, the agreements previously reached by the parties, and the Arab Peace Initiative, with the State of Israel and an independent, democratic, contiguous, sovereign and viable State of Palestine living side by side in peace and security and mutual recognition. UN membership for Palestine is part of this larger framework conducive to peace and stability. The international community, including the United Nations, need to redouble efforts to create the necessary conditions. Thank you, Mr. President.
I should like to thank the distinguished delegate of Romania, and I now give the floor to the distinguished representative of Latvia.
Mr. President, Latvia abstained on the resolution on admission of new members of the United Nations because we continue to believe in full official recognition of the Palestinian state should only be conducted in the framework of negotiated agreement in accordance with the international parameters. Latvia recognizes the right of the Palestinian people to self-determination, including the right to their independent state of Palestine. Latvia remains committed to the two-state solution of Israel and Palestine, living side by side in peace and security within recognized borders based on the pre-1967 borders to guarantee sustainable peace. Our vote shall not be interpreted as support to the ongoing crisis, including practices that violate international law and international humanitarian law. We fully recognize that more than 34,000 Palestinians have perished, and the remaining residents of Gaza continue to face life-threatening danger as well as humanitarian catastrophe. This crisis must be addressed without delay, ensuring immediate humanitarian pause and sustainable ceasefire, unconditional release of hostages, and the provision of unhindered humanitarian assistance at scale to the Palestinian people to end the suffering now. We thank the Palestinian Mission and other interlocutors for their constructive efforts to improve the text of the resolution to enable the widest possible support among UN member states. Therefore, we call on the Security Council to reconsider the matter on the UN membership of Palestine as soon as possible. To conclude, we believe that this is the time for the international community to redouble efforts towards overcoming the current crisis and reviving the Middle East peace process aimed at achieving the two-state solution. Meanwhile, it is important to enhance political and practical support to the Palestinian people and the Palestinian Authority as their official representative at the foundation of future state of Palestine. I thank you.
I thank the distinguished representative of Latvia, and I now offer the floor to the distinguished representative of Greece.
Mr. President, the horrific terrorist attacks against Israel on October 7, 2023, the suffering of innocent civilians both in Israel and Gaza, as well as the wider instability in the Middle East that ensued, reminded us that the price of inaction of the international community is too high. Our positive vote today is in line with our long-standing principal position that the resolution of the Palestinian question should be mutually agreed on the basis of a two-state solution, an independent and vibrant Palestinian state living side by side with the state of Israel in peace and security in line with relevant UN resolutions. We strongly believe that creating a vibrant political horizon for the Palestinian people while also guaranteeing Israel's security is the best way to end violence and to combat extremist and radical ideologies. We believe that the resolution adopted today can contribute to the creation of an international political environment to achieve these goals. We would like to clarify that the vote of Greece today is without prejudice to the membership of Palestine in the United Nations in accordance with the UN Charter, as well as to its present status in our bilateral relations. I thank you.
I should like to thank the distinguished representative of Greece for his statement, and I now invite the distinguished representative of Luxembourg to take the floor.
Monsieur le Président, le Luxembourg a voté aujourd'hui en faveur de la résolution présentée par les Émirats arabes unis, par laquelle l'Assemblée générale recommande au Conseil de sécurité de réexaminer favorablement l'admission de l'État de Palestine comme membre des Nations Unies et confère des droits supplémentaires à l'État de Palestine en attendant son admission. En votant en faveur de cette résolution, le Luxembourg a fait un choix clair. Nous avons voté en faveur de la paix et de la solution à deux États. Cette solution est seule à même de répondre aux besoins de sécurité de long terme d'Israël, ainsi qu'aux aspirations légitimes des Palestiniens à un État. Nous remercions la Palestine d'avoir renforcé le langage de la résolution, réaffirmant l'appui de l'Assemblée générale à la solution à deux États, avec Israël et la Palestine vivant côte à côte, en paix et en sécurité, à l'intérieur de frontières reconnues, sur la base des frontières d'avant 1967. La résolution que nous venons d'adopter à une très large majorité donne un nouvel élan à tous ceux qui s'engagent pour la paix. Notre ministre des Affaires étrangères se rendra en Israël et en Palestine à la fin du mois pour appuyer ses efforts. Nous saluons les travaux en cours au Conseil de sécurité à l'initiative de la France pour relancer l'action diplomatique en faveur de la solution à deux États. Nous espérons que le vote d'aujourd'hui rapproche cet horizon politique. En parallèle, le Luxembourg est en train de se concerter avec ses partenaires européens au sujet de la reconnaissance de l'État de Palestine. Nous voyons cette reconnaissance comme une mesure additionnelle en appui à la solution à deux États. Le vote de ce matin donne aussi une lueur d'espoir à la population civile à Gaza et aux familles des otages. Nous continuons de nous tenir aux côtés de tous les victimes. Nous réitérons notre appel urgent pour la libération immédiate et inconditionnelle de tous les otages, un cessez-le-feu durable et un plan d'accès humanitaire. L'Assemblée générale l'a dit clairement dans sa résolution du 12 décembre 2023. Nous remercions la Palestine d'avoir inséré une référence à cette résolution dans la résolution que nous avons. Monsieur le Président, la guerre à Gaza et la situation en Cisjordanie, qui est marquée par la poursuite de la politique de colonisation et de la violence extrême des colons, démontre plus que jamais la nécessité d'œuvrer à une solution politique au conflit israélo-palestinien. La protection des civils et le respect du droit international et du droit international humanitaire doivent être assurés à tout moment et en tout. Le Luxembourg appelle à la pleine mise en œuvre des résolutions 2712, 2720 et 2728 du Conseil de sécurité, des résolutions de cette Assemblée et des mesures conservatoires indiquées à l'État d'Israël par la Cour internationale de justice les 26 janvier et 28 mars dernier.
to the State of Israel
Nous demandons instamment au gouvernement
by the
israélien de ne pas
International Court of
lancer
Justice handed down on the
d'offensive
26th
à
of
Rafah.
January and in 28
Comme l'a souligné le secrétaire général,
We
un tel
urge the
assaut serait
Israeli
une
government to
catastrophe
not
qui
launch
ferait
an
un
offensive
nombre
in
incalculable de
Rafah.
victimes
As
civiles.
underscored by the Secretary General,
Des dizaines de milliers de
another
civils ont
such
été obligés de fuir
assault
une
would be
fois de
a
plus
disaster
sans
given
avoir
the incalculable
aucun
number
endroit
of
sûr
civilian
où aller.
victims it would incur.
Les répercussions
Tens
d'un
of
assaut à
thousands of
Rafah se
civilians
feraient
have been
sentir bien
compelled
au-delà
to
de la
flee
bande de
once
Gaza,
again without
en
knowing
Cisjordanie
where they
occupée et
can
dans toute la
go
région.
to be sure and safe.
Monsieur le Président,
The repercussions in Rafah
le
would
Luxembourg est
well
consterné par le
beyond
fait que la
Gaza
famine
Strip and West
se répand à Gaza en raison du blocage de
Mr.
l'accès humanitaire.
President, Luxembourg
Nous
is
sommes choqués
concerned
par les
and
informations
disturbed
faisant
by
état
the
de
famine
la
that is
découverte
spreading
de
throughout
charniers
Gaza due to
aux
the
hôpitaux Nasser
blockade
et
of
Al-Shifa
humanitarian access.
et
And we're
d'attaques
shocked
des
by the
forces armées
information
israéliennes
that
ciblant
state that
les
there's been a
civils,
discovery
des écoles, des
of
hôpitaux,
what has happened
les
at the Master
installations des
Hospital
Nations
and
Unies et
Al-Shifa
d'autres
Hospital, the
infrastructures
attacks
civiles.
of armed forces
Ces
from
attaques
Israel
font un
targeting
nombre
civilians,
inconcevable de
schools,
victimes civiles.
hospitals, United
Le
Nations
manque de
facilities,
respect
and
pour
other
les vies
civilian
civiles est
infrastructures.
intolérable
These attacks are
et les
intolerable,
attaques contre les travailleurs
and attacks
humanitaires
on
et les
humanitarian workers
journalistes sont
and
inacceptables.
journalists are
Le Luxembourg rend
unacceptable.
ici hommage
Luxembourg
à
would
tous
like
les
to
personnels
pay tribute
humanitaires
to all the
de
humanitarian
l'UNRWA,
workers,
de
to
l'ONU
the staff of
des
UNRWA, the
ONG
United Nations, the
et aux
NGOs, and the
journalistes qui ont
journalists
été tués
who
à
have
Gaza.
been killed in
La
Gaza.
redevabilité doit être assurée pour tous les crimes commis.
Accountability should be
Justice doit être
provided
rendue
for
aux
all
victimes.
crimes committed and
Il
justice
convient ici de rappeler
for
que
all
le fait
victims.
de diriger intentionnellement
appropriate to
des
recall
attaques
here
contre les acteurs
that
humanitaires
intentionally
et l'utilisation
attacking
de la famine
humanitarian
comme méthode
actors
de
and
guerre
using famine as a
constitue
war
des crimes de
tactic
guerre
are war
inscrits dans le
crimes
statut de
as
Rome
set forth
de la
in the
Cour
Rome
pénale
Statute of the
internationale.
International Criminal Court.
À cet égard, le
In
Luxembourg
this regard,
condamne dans les termes les plus
Luxembourg
fermes toute
condemns
menace
in the firmest
et tout
terms
acte
any threat
d'intimidation à
and
l'encontre
any
de la
act of
CPI,
intimidation
de
against
son procureur
the
et de
International
l'ensemble de son
Criminal Court,
personnel.
the prosecutor,
La
and all
CPI
of its
joue un rôle
staff.
fondamental dans la
The
lutte
court
contre
plays a
l'impunité
key
et doit
role
donc
in
pouvoir
fighting
agir
impunity
en
and
toute
being and
indépendance.
should be able to act with full
Lutter
independence.
contre l'impunité n'est pas
Combating
incompatible avec la
impunity
recherche
is
d'une
not
solution politique, au
incompatible
contraire.
with the
Nous
quest
sommes
for a
profondément
political
convaincus que la
solution. To the
justice est un
contrary, we
ingrédient
are deeply
indispensable
convinced
pour
that
une paix
justice is
durable
an
dans la région.
ingredient which is
Pour
indispensable
cette
for
raison, le
lasting
Luxembourg
peace
se
in the
joint aux
region. And for
appels à
that
la
reason,
conduite
Luxembourg
d'enquêtes
joins the
indépendantes
appeals of others
afin de faire
for
toute la lumière
independent
sur les
investigations to be
violations du droit
conducted to
international
shed light on all
humanitaire et des
violations
droits
of
humains
international
dans la
humanitarian
bande de
law
Gaza et les
and
territoires
human rights
palestiniens
in
occupés,
Gaza and in the
ainsi que
occupied
sur les
Palestinian
atrocités
territories, and to shed
perpétrées
light
par
on
le
the
Hamas
atrocities
et d'autres
perpetrated by
groupes
Hamas
terroristes le
and
7
other terrorist
octobre
groups on the
2023.
7th of October 2023.
Monsieur le Président, à ce moment
Mr.
critique
President,
pour
at
la
this
paix et la
critical
sécurité
moment for
internationale et pour le
international peace and
Moyen-Orient,
security and for the
le
Middle East,
Luxembourg réaffirme son plein
Luxembourg
soutien au
reaffirms
secrétaire
its full
général
support
Antonio
to
Guterres,
the Secretary General,
aux Nations Unies et
Guterres,
le personnel
and
des
United
Nations
Nations,
Unies qui
United
s'engagent
Nations
sans relâche,
staff
avec
who are
courage,
committed
pour venir en aide aux
unwaveringly with
populations
courage
affectées
to
par le
come to the
conflit
assistance of the
israélo-palestinien
peoples who are affected
pour
by the
mettre fin à ce
Israeli-Palestinian
conflit
conflict, to
et
put
pour
an end to the
prévenir une
conflict
escalade
and to
régionale.
prevent a regional
Nous
escalation
appelons
of
tous les
conflict.
États membres,
We call
notamment
upon all
Israël,
member states,
à
especially
s'abstenir de
Israel,
toute
to
forme de
refrain from
représailles,
any form of
d'intimidation
reprisal,
ou de dénigrement
intimidation,
visant les
or
Nations
denigration
Unies et son personnel.
geared to
Je
the
vous
United
remercie.
Nations and targeting its personnel. Thank you.
I thank the distinguished representative of Luxembourg, and I now invite the distinguished representative of Bulgaria to take the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, Bulgaria was among the first to recognize the state of Palestine back in 1988. We have consistently supported the legitimate aspirations of the Palestinian people pertaining to their right to self-determination, and we are convinced that the Palestinian people, like all peoples, have the right to a sovereign and independent state which can participate in the multilateral system on an equal footing with all other states in line with the principles of the UN Charter and the international rules-based order. Our commitment to a just and comprehensive resolution of the Israeli-Palestinian conflict based on the two-state solution is firmer than ever. Given the current political context, the resolution just adopted should have been aimed at facilitating in its entirety the achievement of this comprehensive goal. When it comes to the annex, the resolution just adopted contains some elements which need further clarification from the point of view of procedural rules and established practice. Therefore, Bulgaria was not in a position to support the draft and abstained from it. Thank you.
I thank the distinguished representative of Bulgaria, and I now invite the distinguished representative of Tunisia to take the floor.
شكرا السيد الرئيس.
Thank you, Mr. President.
صوتت تونس لصالح مشروع القرار تأكيدا لدعمها للحق الشرعي والطبيعي لدولة فلسطين في العضوية الكاملة في منظمة الأمم المتحدة، خاصة وأنها تستجيب لكل مقتضيات هذه العضوية كما وردت في الفقرة الرابعة من الميثاق، ونعتبر هذا الحق جزءا أساسا من الحق الشرعي للفلسطينيين في تقرير المصير، وحتى تتمكن دولة فلسطين من مواصلة جهودها مع المجموعة الدولية لإنهاء الاحتلال ووضع حد للجرائم والإبادة وكل ممارسات القمع والتنكيل التي يتضرر بها الشعب الفلسطيني منذ 7 أكتوبر. إن حصول مشروع القرار على تأييد أكثر من ثلثي الدول الأعضاء يمثل رسالة واضحة بأحقية دولة فلسطين في الحصول على مكان طبيعي بين بقية أعضاء الأمم المتحدة وضمان احترام الميثاق الدولي وحماية الحق والعدل والقانون. سيد الرئيس، تجدد تونس دعمها الثابت لحق الشعب الفلسطيني في استرداد حقوقه المشروعة غير القابلة للتصرف التي لا تسقط بالتقادم، وفي مقدمتها الحق في تقرير المصير وإقامة دولته المستقلة ذات السيادة الكاملة على كل أرض فلسطين وعاصمتها القدس الشريف. كما تطالب تونس المجموعة الدولية ومجلس الأمن مرة أخرى
and the Security Council once again to shoulder their historic, legal and moral responsibilities to put an end to the ongoing massacres against the Palestinian people in Gaza and in the rest of the occupied Palestinian territories, to establish the truth concerning the massacres that were discovered and to stop providing the occupation forces with weapons. These massacres and crimes that have crossed all the lines and which are being perpetrated by the occupation forces, which persist in abusing the Palestinian people and violating their rights amidst an ongoing international silence and a lack of accountability, owing to the special support Israel is receiving in the Security Council. This support enabled it to ignore international law and to end resolutions. To call for an immediate end of these crimes and to holding the occupation accountable. To also hold accountable those responsible for genocides and war crimes. We beseech the international community to stand firmly and seriously away from any political considerations or double standards, and to prevent another crime against more than 1.5 million Palestinians that were forcibly displaced to Rafah, to allow the delivery of humanitarian assistance and all basic necessities that are denied by the occupation forces, which are using starvation as a means of warfare. In conclusion, we reiterate that the right of the State of Palestine to full membership in the United Nations cannot be doubted, denied or misinterpreted. It is a historic, inalienable, established right that was adopted by the overwhelming majority of the international community as one of the most important pillars of a just, comprehensive and lasting solution to the just Palestinian cause. It will restore rights to their owners. In this context, we call upon the Security Council to reconsider favorably the full membership of the State of Palestine. This will be a first step towards justifying a situation that runs counters to the principles of right, justice, and the purposes of the United Nations. Thank you, President.
I thank the distinguished representative of Tunisia, and I now give the floor to the distinguished representative of Estonia.
Mr. President, Estonia voted in favor of the resolution in order to reaffirm our unwavering support to a just and comprehensive resolution of the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. Based on the two-state solution, with the State of Israel and an independent, democratic, contiguous, sovereign and viable State of Palestine, living side by side in peace and security. We support revitalizing a political horizon and reinvigorating international efforts towards this goal. Estonia supports granting the State of Palestine additional rights and privileges for participation in the work of the General Assembly without setting a precedent and in full conformity with the UN Charter, i.e. excluding the right to vote and putting forward candidacies to United Nations organs and maintaining the status of a non-member observer state. Estonia's vote in favor does not constitute bilateral recognition of the State of Palestine. I thank you.
I should like to thank the representative of Estonia, and I now call upon the representative of Cyprus.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, Cyprus has voted in favor of the resolution which was adopted today. At the same time, Cyprus wishes to underline that the adoption of this resolution constitutes an exceptional case and shall not establish any precedent for the future. Cyprus remains unwaveringly committed to the United Nations Charter and international law, which we all have an obligation to uphold and to protect. In this regard, we strongly call on all member states to respect and safeguard it. Cyprus has recognized the State of Palestine since 1988. The Palestinian cause for self-determination should in no way be associated with the heinous acts of the Hamas terrorist group, which does not represent the Palestinian people and which we have on numerous occasions unequivocally condemned. Cyprus remains committed to the goal of a comprehensive, lasting and sustainable peace in the form of a two-state solution as the only viable path to peace and security in the Middle East. Palestinians and Israelis have an equal right to live in safety, dignity and peace. I thank you, Mr. President.
I thank the representative of Cyprus, and I now invite the representative of Slovakia to take the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'm taking the floor to deliver the explanation of Slovakia's vote on draft resolution L30 Rev 1. Slovakia voted in favor of this draft resolution enhancing the participation rights and privileges of the State of Palestine in the United Nations General Assembly. At the same time, we acknowledge that the way towards the membership of the State of Palestine in the United Nations is through agreements that are reached by the parties and after receiving a positive recommendation of the admission from the UN Security Council. Mr. President, my delegation has voted for this draft resolution with the understanding that the modalities foreseen in the resolution are in accordance with the rules and procedure of the United Nations General Assembly and the United Nations Charter. Our decision was guided by the desire to strengthen the cause of peace between Israelis and Palestinians and our unequivocal support for the two-state solution. I strongly emphasize here that Slovakia opposes any intent to isolate Israel in the United Nations. Mr. President, as we have indicated on other occasions, we condemned in the most forceful way the atrocious terrorist attacks of Hamas on Israel and recognize the right of Israel to defend itself. In the same strong manner, we deplore the loss of civilian life and reiterate the importance of ensuring protection of all civilians at all times in line with international humanitarian law. The recent cycle of violence in the Middle East presents a stark reminder of the need for the resumption and acceleration of the peace process, leading to a two-state solution to the Israeli-Palestinian conflict and sustainable peace in the region. We cannot return to the pre-October 7 status quo. To conclude, I want to say that we are worried about the surging anti-Semitic and Islamophobic incidents in the world since the start of Israel-Hamas war. There is no excuse for anti-Semitism nor for anti-Muslim hatred. Thank you for your attention.
Okay, overtime na, tama na. Okay, ito na po mga suki, no? Okay. Ito muna, no? Anday lang. Okay, may statement po rito ang Bapa Party, no? Bapa Party. Kaya sabi po ng Bapa rito, Alyansang Bapa at United Bangsamoro Justice Party posibleng maganap. Okay, last na lang ito, no? Kasi overtime na rin ako. Okay. Alalay lang kasi nasira ang boses natin, no? Posibleng maganap ang alyansang sa pagitan ng Bangsamoro Party, Bapa at United Bangsamoro Justice Party ayon sa naging pahayag ni Bapa President Muslimin Musema sa ginanap ng First Bangsamoro Party General Assembly itong Mayo 11 sa lungsod ng Cotabato. Ayon kay Sema, bukas ang kanilang partido sa Alyansang United Bangsamoro Justice Party dahil pareho mano sila nang ipinaglalaban o struggle para sa Bangsamoro, samantala naging mapayapa at matagumpay ang naturang General Assembly at umabot sa mahigit na 10,000 katao ang dumalo dito, mga suki, no? So yan po ang katapusan ng balita. And then ito na po mga suki, no? Pinilit ko lang boses ko. Okay, inulit ko, i-welcome po natin mga leader natin sa Bangsamoro Government. Okay, itong nakita natin sa picture. Okay, itong senior leader, pinangunahan po ni Chief Minister Ahud Balawag Ibrahim. Okay, si Bapa Muhagar Iqbal. Okay, ng Minister Minister of Basics Higher Education, no? Technical and Higher Education. And then itong si Governor ng Maguindanao del Norte, itong si Abdurrahman Bakakuan, no? Okay, welcome sila sa ating probinsya. Okay, hanggang dito na. Okay, ang programa natin sa Consolidated News natin. Okay, dito lang lamang po sa platform ng ADLSN TV News Online. And then sa programa Halo-Halo Special Opinion Balita at iba pa, kasama po sa Serbisyo Publiko Tinig ng Mamamayan at sa kaugnayan sa mamamayan. Okay, pinilit lang ang boses natin. Okay, mga shoutout na lang po sa mga nakikinig, no? Ayan. So, okay, paalam tayo. Wala tayong masamang tinapay. Okay, magbalita lang po mga kababayan ng maayos, no? Okay, bye-bye na. This has been Abs na mahal lamang po mga magmamahal sa programa, no? Bye-bye na. Okay.